Because it wasn't yet.
Well, right, but there wasn't a timer counting down, I don't think.
You pushed the red button.
I did something wrong. Welcome to the Crack Pack Show, something. We did a backpack show. We're going to talk about marketing innovation today, and we're going to talk about some of the barriers to make innovation happen in marketing and some of the good examples of it. And we're going to go all over the map, and we're going to require you to talk about things. Think. Well, that's not the right startup, and I also have something else set up that I shouldn't have.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gargone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show. Who makes this show?
I don't know.
Oh, my gosh. Well, luckily for
you
us.
You check the settings before you went live?
You can use StreamYard because at least you could recover it really fast. Man, StreamYard's great. Go to cbrogan.net/StreamYard. You can make a show better than I can, evidently, clearly. Anytime this show requires my good graces to make it work, we're in trouble. Hey, want a .online domain? Get one. Just go to cbrogan.net/online. All you got to do, it's so easy. Just type in the code Chris, whatever way you want, and you will get 99 cents.
You go to cbrogan.net/online and enter the code Chris in all caps, and you can get the .online domain for 99 cents for a year.
Have I made that joke for about a year at this point?
It is annoying that it has to be all caps. I don't.
That's sort of.
Do they have like another Chris who already claimed the like lowercase?
Yeah, I think maybe.
And another one that was like the regular capitalization.
There's this lady who's here, so I'm gonna just say hi to her. She's familiar.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm into her. And look at that, Steve Brogan. He's a poker dealer. Was a sysadmin for a while. Worked at a bank once for a very brief amount of time. Drove a hearse.
No.
True story.
Did something bad happen? You made it sound like something bad.
There's a story. That's why he only drove it for a brief while.
I parked it behind the Safeway for 2 minutes. Somebody took it.
And then we've got Carl from hazy, beautiful Alexandria, Virginia. Hello. Are you getting that smoke rolling down? Maybe that's
Are we? Is it?
No,
we
don't. It is hazy here.
It is hazy.
And hey, Dean.
Hi, Dean.
Hello, how are you? So we're going to talk a little bit about marketing innovation. That was one of our conversations. And one of the reasons that we were talking about is that you are in a marketing organization at a company, and I have been a marketing consultant for a long amount of time, but now get to observe marketing from a different vantage point, a new seat. Mm-hmm. What made you want to make this the topic today?
Well, there's been a lot of conversations about, thinking outside the box and what that looks like. And the conversation tends to go straight to tactics, which I feel like is not the way to think about it. If you're thinking about tactics already, you're way down in the box. I think it's like come up several levels and think about what you want to talk about versus who you're trying to talk to and what they would like for you to talk about. And then kind of rethink from there what's going to work. And when I say rethink, I mean like everything is on the table potentially. I've seen disruption in marketing at times like come from unusual places. So the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, they've been trying to get people to be like ready for emergencies like pandemics for decades, like right since their inception. Nobody gives a rat's patootie. Nobody wants to listen. Nobody reads their informational anything. And then one year they came out with a graphic novel about a zombie apocalypse. And so you follow the people along through this like scary adventure and their preparations and what they do to kind of survive, which are all the same things you would need to survive if you lost power, and you needed water and like the stores weren't open. It's all the same stuff. And all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, this is great. And they're all reading it. They're absorbing the information, whether or not that's, what they think they're doing. And they get their point across and they get results. But to get there, they sure weren't like, what, we should do some more stuff on LinkedIn. Like they were they had to go way back up to think outside the box.
So I want to go so many different places just from that one topic. But so for instance, people, one of my favorite complaints I hear, especially B2B marketing, is, yeah, but my thing's boring. There's nothing more boring than emergency
Oh my
preparedness.
God, totally.
So,
Like keep a week's supply of water
right,
and
it's
canned
lame.
goods and some Band-Aids.
Lame as anything to have to talk about it.
And nobody wants to think about that stuff. That's the additional thing you're coming up against. Like, fine,
Right.
people think B2B is boring. Nobody wants to think about a pandemic or, something unpleasant happening. They purposely put that stuff out of their mind. So at least you don't have to do that.
The box isn't the tactic. It's really about the, implementation of strategy, really, because I was thinking that I'm sure the CDC did use email campaigns.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure they did use, some videos, a PDF, all the tactical layer things to get that storyline across. But what made it effective was the content concept, not the delivery mechanism. Talk about that for a second.
Well, I would never suggest that you stop doing everything else in order to do like a Dollar Shave Club style campaign for your B2B SaaS software company. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is do the things that have brought you whatever predictable results, but leave a little space. And by that, I mean resources like time and money to put behind something experimental, like a graphic novel or a speakeasy at, I don't know, some industry conference or like something totally different.
Nice.
And you're not going to be able to know how you might have done stirring things up like that if you never try. That's one thing. You'll also never know the extent to which you might have shaken things up and gotten great results if you allow a tiny little pilot project without tracking results and don't allocate any additional funds afterward if it proves successful. Like sometimes people will be like, fine, do your stupid graphic novel. That's okay. You can have this much to do it. But there's no additional allocation afterwards, like for doing it more or promoting it more if it really super works. Like you need both. You need a little give.
That's an interesting point, because to your point, like even if you have a little bit budget for like, let's just try.
Yeah.
Well, if it works, then you need to have some more money out there.
What if it does? What if it works spectacularly? And then you're like, well, cool, but all our money's spoken for because we're doing these regular white paper things. So
Hashim says, I remember the Chrome released a comic book on how a browser works, and it was the first technical thing that I actually sought out to read. Yes.
Yeah. Like, your email newsletter when people would say, hey, I didn't get my newsletter this week.
Right. I was like, oh, did you mean you wanted me to market to you?
Yes.
Here you go.
Yeah. That's so rare.
Hi, Gary. Idwa, yes. Incident response and disaster recovery, same thing. Oh, yeah. I mean, disaster recovery is a perfect time to break out the old zombie apocalypse.
There are really cool. There are really cool examples within our space, even, or like adjacent to our space. So like in security, one company did a documentary about the opposite of hackers, like the people who have to clean up after hacks, like the people who save the day. And it was this really cool story about kind of the heroes that come in and protect our data and stuff. And the way that they did it was to make a trailer for the documentary. And then at a trade show, like a security industry trade show, they did like a movie theater. And so everybody that would come would get candy and popcorn. So there's no device in their hands because they're eating candy and popcorn, and watch the trailer, which was like, I don't know, a few minutes. But who wouldn't stop for that, like at a trade show? It was the most popular booth at the entire thing.
That sounds wild.
Yeah. And that's like in the security space, which you would think boring, regulatory compliance, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is a segue. This goes back to our company, especially too. We sell software. A lot of the software is really cool. It's really useful, but it's really cool to a bunch of nerds. It's like, this thing handles your configurations. It's about that.
I'm a nerd.
But security, like out of the strangest pieces to, well, I guess it's not strange, because everyone's having to migrate in our ecosystem into the cloud, in the biggest of the ecosystems we serve. All of a sudden, every single company is like, oh my gosh, how secure is it? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
How do I know that, these garage companies can be trusted with all my stuff? Because it used to be on my server under my desk, and now it's going to be who knows where. I had so many questions in person at the live event about security that to me, it's still one of the pieces that's covered. What's an out of the box? Like, what should people be? Where should we start the marketing conversation about making sure people know more about that security stuff?
You.
I know I'm asking you on the phone. Okay.
No,
never do
well,
that
I
thing.
mean, they're already thinking about it, so you're kind of in a good place. I think I'd start looking at the questions they're asking. Sometimes people don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So that's worth considering. But I look at what they're asking, and then I would take kind of that list of questions to somebody who knows a lot more than I do about security and say, all right, are these the right questions? Is there more? What other things should we be doing? And then I think I would come at it from a really creative standpoint, not necessarily graphic novel, but maybe movie or some kind of video, something that makes it clear, hey, we know what you need to understand for this for you to come through this unscathed. And you just need to take 4 minutes to watch this thing, or however long it's going to take, and you will have the knowledge you need to move ahead. I think that's what people are looking for, partly reassurance and then some kind of direction. And you don't have to outline it all in the very first piece, but if you want to start the conversation, the first piece has to be really highly targeted and relevant. So I think that's where I would go. I would dig up the people who I know are thinking about it, need to make a decision on it, and the questions they're asking, the questions they should be asking, and I produce a really tightly focused piece of content.
Or a whiteboard video. It's definitely one way to get it done. You know, I think with marketers, and okay, this is how I used to get my money walking into marketing departments of some of the biggest companies in the world. I would walk into the room and I'd say, your marketing department sits around and tries to fill in boxes on their spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And I could say that every single company I went to, Coke, Pepsi, Titleist, GM, Comcast,
Yeah.
I would say, you are a bunch of spreadsheet filler outers. And they would have to look, guiltily down at the table. Their leadership would look over at them like, you are a bunch of spreadsheet filler outers. But it was a cheap shot, because I was coming in saying, let's play something experimental. Let's try something new. But that's where stuff happens. Saul Colt and I had a project, and this failed because of a political reason, not anything to do with the business. But the project, it was born out of, oh gosh, the pandemic. None of Main Street, where this was, none of Main Street has any kind of web presence, even though it's 2020. And we were like, oh, well, we have some ways to digitize this. So we made a whole project around, showing people how easy it was to digitize. We walked them through the whole need of what this covered and the kinds of transactions they could have digitally.
Yeah.
And that was the hook. The hook was the same thing you could do across a counter. Someone wants to do right now, but they're being told stay home. That was the hook. Is that a good enough place to start?
Yeah, of course. I mean, so what's in it for the person you're trying to talk to is the only place to start. It's amazing to me that at this point in time, it's still revolutionary. Like Marcus Sheridan and his They Ask You Answer book.
Yeah.
Some people still don't know that.
No.
Some people still don't know that content marketing is not, here's what we want to say about our new stuff. And basically it's a press release that you put out on your blog. I don't know how we've not moved past that, but we have not moved past that. So yeah, the only place to start is with what's in it for people. And they may not know it. Those Main Street folks did not appreciate the significance of what you were talking about, even though they themselves are also consumers and know how easy it is to sit at home and click for things. For some reason, there's a bridge they can't cross. You have to bridge the concepts for them and pull them over. And we have to do the same. In B2B SaaS software, we definitely have to do the same.
For sure.
Yeah.
Hashim has a comment. He says, I like starting with the actual questions you're getting. So they ask you answer, and creating a way that's divorced from real concerns. I think so too. One of my ongoing, and I forget, I stole this from someone for sure. They said, go into any industry's frequently asked questions, make your sample content for that industry off of the FAQ, and you're going to have a better time.
Or if you have a sales team or a channel team, get them to send you emails that they've gotten from people with questions or concerns, because they've got them. I mean, they've got them. It's a ready thing. And their responses actually would be helpful too. So one assumes they've answered those questions in that email. And so if they send you those as well, you can, obviously you're going to take out any identifying information, but you can turn those answers into answers you share with everyone.
Hashim points out Sheridan's advice is so simple, it feels like it actually shouldn't work.
But it's the only thing that works.
It's the way
You
people
ever try
want it.
talking to somebody? Like, what identifies someone as autistic, for example? One of them is talking about things that they're super into
Yeah.
without picking up cues that the other person doesn't care. That's what we learned, at least
Yeah.
with one of my kids, that they have like these very deep interests.
Correct.
Companies are like that. Companies are basically autistic. Like, we want to talk about our stuff and we don't care if you're interested or not.
That's
So-
a very interesting connection. All right, Jake wrote us a book. Marketing. Please always include operations before you launch a new ad campaign. Remember to always market to your employees first, because if your employees don't understand the why regarding the new ad or initiative, then it's going to feel like a push and not a pull, and you won't get any buy-in and not deliver on the brand. In the early days of Disney, we used to have a back channel for comments about marketing over promising. Like, while you're selling the Disney Dream, we're servicing the Disney Nightmare.
That's terrible.
My gosh, that's what I used to say in wireless all the time.
No, so Chris Reimer wrote a book called Happy Work, and he said, like, great marketing doesn't come from miserable people. And I think about that all the time.
Very good point.
So if you've got a back channel like that, that's not going to be the team that feels empowered to innovate.
Yeah. Jake, I am curious if you're still around. What part of Disney's marketing were you working with? Because I did a little bit with the Parks group, and I think it's a fascinating product. Dream products to market.
The parks,
Disney. Oh my gosh,
like,
yeah, the parks specifically, because Disney for a long time, until they bought Marvel and Star Wars and all these other properties, Disney had a tweens problem. They had kids love it, and then the tweens were like, I'm too cool for Disney.
Yeah.
So now they've kind of finally put a few more age groups in there, but that's marketing. Like, they had to actually add some segments because they were running into problems with getting people.
But this is tough. So even if you had a really cool example of an innovative Disney thing, people are going to say two things. One, we're not Disney. We sell B2B SaaS software or whatever it is that they sell.
Yeah.
And, also, we don't have that kind of budget. Disney has more money than like a bunch of countries put together. But the CDC didn't have a lot of money to do their thing.
Right.
They just had an idea and the willingness to go with it. If you're going to send an email nurture, it might as well be about something cool, like a graphic novel.
This is a point that's really close to my heart. Too many companies punish failure, which is why marketers are spreadsheet filler out.
God, that's so true.
It is true.
Because if you've ever watched someone like plan and get feedback on the plan and everything without launching, that pain. Because in the time it takes to do that, you could have launched and probably failed, and then made changes, launched again, maybe failed, and then launched a third or fourth time. And then it works. But you've reached, where you wanted to be more quickly than
Sure.
if you waited. Because a plan that was going to fail is going to fail in 6 months from now, or it's going to fail today, probably. So why don't you just get it over with?
Yeah.
I'm not saying try to fail, but you get it.
Jake was at Parks. So
Parks.
we might have crossed a few times back in the days.
They did a good job with their operations.
Oh, I think their operations are some of their marketing. That's for darn
Yeah.
sure. I think with innovation too.
Why are you asking me questions? People pay you for this kind of stuff. Why don't you say what you would do if you had to?
There's lots of things I think about when I think about innovation. One is that sometimes we go after new stuff because it's new. As we're yet another company in software looking at what the future of AI holds, it's amazing how many are just gluing in a little bit of AI to their app. And it's basically search function kind of AI, which is not especially novel. We had this thing called Google for 20-ish years now. Yeah. And so I think that with marketing, that happens when it comes to innovation as well, is that they'll say they want innovation. What they want is some distracting new thing.
Yeah.
But
the first mover advantage is real, at the same time.
Yes.
So you can't ignore the new thing if it has potential, because you could fail spectacularly, or you could reap that benefit, the risk premium of being one of the first to try it.
Do you think some of the go-to-market motions are that way? For instance, Tom's Shoes with their buy one, get one kind of a thing. There was suddenly a lot of buy one, get ones. HelloFresh with delivery to the door. There were lots of, or who's the one before them? That's funny. There was another home delivery before that, but DoorDash, Grubhub, all of those. Now there's this food delivery war out there, Instacart and a few others.
Now you can get real specific, macro.
So those go-to-market motions, do you think that those are like, should we spend more time thinking about that in marketing, or is it is that too hard to move a company to make that choice from the
You mean
marketing
like-
department? We sell our software two different ways. The channel has a way through partnerships,
Sure.
and then we have direct.
Mhm.
But if you said, oh, but we also want to sell it CDs, we want to send CDs to the house. Like, I think that's a pretty heavy lift, don't you?
I do. I definitely do. I'm thinking, so when I say innovate and experiment, I mean educated guesses. I don't mean like throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. I mean, you have reason to believe that this is something people want. So I would say if you were hearing from people, like say at the industry events that you've attended for us, and everybody at the booth was like, you know what, I would really like a CD in the mail, old fashioned. Like if you were hearing that, then yeah, that's something worth trying. But if it's something you're just sitting around a conference table coming up with personas like
Hey,
buys a
what
lot
if?
Bob and I don't like software Susan, and then that's one of your ideas, then no. It's all about the data.
About punishing people who take risks. I've worked at places where they encouraging taking risks and then punish a lack of success. It's like setting up your employees to fail.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
It's so nutty.
Frank Perdue, the chicken magnate, he actually encouraged people to come up with new ideas and talk about like a non-sexy industry, like the delivery of chicken product, poultry. He encouraged people to come up with ideas, and this guy came up with a new way to package chicken so that it took up less space, like same amount of chicken, smaller packages, so you could get more in each truck, and people got their stuff faster. People freaking hated it. They felt like they were being shortchanged. Like it looked like less chicken, even though it was not. And so they actually had to go back to the like less efficient way because people were freaking out. And Frank Perdue gave him a big certificate for like the worst idea award or something. But it wasn't really meant to he wasn't really jabbing him. He was like, oh, well, it didn't work out, but it's a cool idea. Here's a giant funny novelty thing. And the guy kept it like his whole life. He loved it. And they did it every year after that.
I think, there's such a difference though, right? Like, so Purdue treated that nice. New Coke sure didn't do that. No. I think the Bud Light CMO is going to be right up there with them for that misfire with Dylan Mulvaney on. Anyway,
that's such a large scale thing though. And like, sure, the idea starts somewhere, but it's not like that one person went rogue and did it all themselves and suddenly there's new Coke. Like a lot of people signed off on that.
Yeah, to Carl and Dean's point, they threw their CMO under, but the CEO made it sound like they'd never even heard there was a marketing department. Who?
What?
Yeah,
we don't do that.
So
no, you're correct though. If you're going to encourage change and ideas and innovation, which you need to do, then you need to on the other side recognize some of these things won't work. That's a big part of it, but I think a bigger part of it is not planning for success of those things. That's what I mean. Like every penny of the budget is spoken for the second, the thing is signed and like everything's allocated. And that's why when you're like, we could really use another person to do X, they're like, well, wait until next, next budget thing. We're closed up till the end of the year. These are going to be really successful things that you can't capitalize on if you don't allocate like an experimental budget and set metrics. I'm not saying like guess. I'm saying say, hey, if this does this much business, if we get this many qualified leads, if we get this much organic traffic, whatever your thing is, then I would like to double down on it and, put another 10 grand or 15 grand or 50 grand into this. And you need that because otherwise you're not going to, there's no point in experimenting if you can't take advantage of success.
There's also a place for the box. We started by talking about thinking outside of the box, but there's a place for the box, right? The real basic block and tackle marketing has to happen. Do we have great landing pages? Is it easy to figure out how to get to our stuff? Our company, our product team does a lot of product-led growth stuff. So for instance, they want to make it easy so that when you download your trial, that you get from trial to install to aha moment. So we measure the distance that we call it time to value. That measurement of time to value is like when they first realize, oh, this is what this app does for me. Holy cow, I totally needed this app. I don't even believe I didn't have it before. Time to value is where one of those measures. That's not a YouTube channel.
No.
And so I think that's a thing to think about too, is I think that we have to always bring it back to a box because we have to,
Well, you're saying you need to have a solid foundation. You need to cover your bases.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. I mean, you're not going to ice and put a cherry on top of a cake when the cake's not baked.
When there's no
Doesn't make
cake,
any
right?
sense.
Yeah. You can't put frosting on a raw egg.
You cannot.
I like that.
You could try.
I'm gonna use that somewhere. Look for that in my LinkedIn posts.
So yes, we need to cover the basics before you can innovate. I agree.
Yeah. Do you think? I don't know if you can answer this question. How does someone start thinking about the innovation channel, or how does someone start thinking about where I'm going to go after? Because I guess what I'm thinking is, how did the CDC say, it'd be great as a zombie apocalypse? To me, that's like one of those, catching lightning kind of a moments or something.
You would think, but the mindset, I think, is you stop thinking about everything you've done before, everything you're currently doing, how everybody's always done it, and just open your mind to thinking about the customer journey, or in that case, like regular people on their journey, and what it would take to interest them in the topic that you want to discuss. And the answer is relevance. It's always relevance, but we don't think about that enough. So you have to come back up and really leave some room for kicking around in your customer's shoes, like for a while. And at that point, you can think about what it would take to pierce the many shields we put up around ourselves to keep advertising and irrelevant stuff out, what it would take to get through those. That's what it takes. And so you have to kind of you have to both shed all of your preconceived notions about what works and what doesn't, but also come out of your own perspective, which is solidly entrenched on the company side, and think about it from the customer side.
Yeah, that's one I'm noodling around in the conversation we've had about migration, server migration, is that I need to think about it from the mindset of I have a sysadmin who is probably, this is not their bread and butter day and night job. They are a sysadmin to a platform and probably have 2 other platforms that they're also administrators of. And so I need to think of a way to make them go, all right, I don't want to have to deal with this, but if I do deal with this is the way I'm going to get through it, or whatever. So
they're probably also under pressure to not disrupt normal operations.
Right. They have to keep everything running. So my theme that I'm sort of my in light soft pencil theme is superhero, like how to be the superhero of migration. Because there's so many times we talked a couple different times
Scotty,
about punishment.
you want them to be Scotty the engineer.
Oh, Scotty. I like it. Yeah. Well.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
Every episode of the Backpack Show, we find a person of the day. We pick them at absolute random, purely by me.
It's all you. It's your caprice.
Decided it's caprice.
Sometimes it's bribery.
Yep. Well, I'm giving it to Jake. Jake hasn't come by the Backpack Show in a little while. At least he hasn't spoken on the Backpack Show in a little while. Jake, you are a person of the day. That entitles you to 1 free apple. All you have to do is go out to a store, buy the apple, and you can just eat it.
Wash it, and then bake it into a tartlet.
Oh,
that's what I would do.
Would
or like an apple crisp if you prefer.
Okay. I think that's reasonable.
You might need more than one, though.
Hey, want to add something new to the backpack today?
Ooh.
You can add either something physical or metaphor.
Oh, boy. A sense of adventure.
A sense of adventure?
Mm-hmm. You have to be excited about trying new things for any of this to work, for innovation to happen. If you're somebody that would love to stay in the Shire and live every day just like the same day before that and the same day after that, and look at your whole life spread out before you in this, sameness, it's going to be really hard to innovate. But if you have a sense of adventure.
Oh, I like it. Index cards. I'm going to do index cards.
Index cards?
Yeah. Because,
like the kind we used to mail in, like with your name and address in a self-addressed stamped envelope, so that you could win without doing whatever thing they wanted you to do to enter the sweepstakes, like that kind of index card?
Like that, or like this?
Oh, these are fun.
These are visual frameworks cards from my friend Dave Gray, visualframeworks.com. And this will be a Kickstarter project in a week or so. I don't know when. But I would add index cards because you could draw little things like that and then use those to explain concepts and ideas. So as we're out of the box and innovating, we could do
It's funny. I was just thinking this morning, I was looking for like a whiteboard tarot so that if you don't like what it says, you can go and do something else.
Wipe off the tarot thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Your 10 of swords means
you're not the boss of me.
Really good. Yeah.
No fate but what we make.
No fate but what we make. Well, true story. My mom has a tarot deck, and she likes to look through it. And she actually read my future a couple different
Oh,
times.
that's a bad idea.
The one thing I have to say I regret hearing about my future